Welcome to Future Print virtual event session I've got with me Dave Gray, who's a member of the Ricoh industrial print team with a particular focus on helping companies make that transition from analog to digital. So I'm going to catching up with him today about a few things we've got some opinion on and insight. I'm going to start with change, Dave, because that's kind of what I guess we're all in the midst of doing and having to adapt to change. So a few months in now to the first lockdown kind of period. So give us your sort of view on change and how that's impacting the world of print and industrial technology.
Well, I think the first thing is nobody likes change. Nobody would choose change out of choice. It's been rather forced upon all of us at this time, and perhaps we've all been more prepared to accept it because we are all carrying that change. It isn't just one person or one sector. The whole world has changed, and it's forced us to reevaluate a lot of things and to look at the way that we do things. We've had to, in a very short term, adapt to change to survive, both as individuals getting food into the house or companies just trying to survive on a day-to-day basis. So there's been change, huge change, but I guess it's a little bit like a tsunami wave. The wave comes in very quickly, does a lot of damage, forces people to react. But then there's the wave that goes back out again, slower, but no less destructive, no less changing. And I think we're in that phase now. We're going back towards what was normal. I don't think we'll go all the way back to where we were, for sure. But we're starting to see bits of dry ground appearing. We're starting to see what the new world will look like. And some people are desperately trying to get back to where they were. Other people are seeing the exposed new as an opportunity, and tailoring both their business life and their personal life to that change. I think some of the things we've done while we've been in the worst place, in the worst time, will disappear. So the boom in home shopping, home delivery, I think will ebb back. I think it's certainly going to be part of life coming for the future, but the model only really works because people have been at home to take the delivery. Delivery companies have been able to deliver all during the working day and know that somebody in the main would be at home to do it. When people return to the workplace, whenever that is, and not everybody will return to a full-time workplace, and not everybody will return, sadly. But it does mean that home delivery is going to be less attractive. It's going to be restricted to the evenings. Perhaps there'll be a boom in the lockers, the Amazon lockers, and the lockers at petrol stations. So you have your deliveries done there. So you pick them up after your working day. Much like European model, actually. Very few people actually have home delivery in parts of Europe. It is delivered to a locker or to a post office, and you collect it from there. So we've had change imposed upon us. Some see it as a threat, other people see it as an opportunity. I think that's the big thing that we've been watching and learning. Specifically for print, people, well, more than that, I think people have actually looked at their production processes. Print is only ever a part of the process in the world we operate with, industrial print. And they've been looking at that part of their production process and saying, well, is there an opportunity for change? Am I best served by just going back to what I was doing before? Or is this an opportunity to reevaluate how we do what we do? Is it an opportunity to differentiate against my competition? We've seen that supply chain issues have caused a lot of problems for a lot of people. So anything that shortens the supply chain is of interest at the moment. Shouldn't say that nobody's expecting a second wave or a second pandemic. It could easily happen, I guess. But if that happens, people don't want to get caught with supply chain problems again. And I think a lot of people are looking at how do they shorten their supply chains in all aspects of production, and print packaging is one of those areas. So a lot of the conversations we're having now are people who are returning to work and actually looking at what the new landscape looks like and saying, perhaps it isn't a good idea just to go back to what we're doing. Is this an opportunity to start differentiating against our competition, reevaluate what we do, and if there is a better alternative, well, why not?
Yeah. So what you're saying is that whilst we've gone beyond the kind of shock phase, you're through partnership, you're working with people to actually try and look at how they're producing things, and if there's perhaps a better way of dealing with the with the restrictions that COVID has initially placed upon the supply chains, to actually ensure that in the future they're better positioned to cope with it should it happen again. Or
Yeah,
is
I
it
think
just a economic point in doing it in any case, regardless? It's a better way of working, continuous improvement, all of that kind of thing.
continuous improvement is a culture that
Hmm.
is at the heart of certainly of our company,
Hmm.
and helping our customers continually improve what they do is a
Hmm.
way of growing the strength of your business, either growing your profit, growing your volume, whatever. But
Hmm.
it's a natural thing to do. To continuously improve, you need two things. You need to understand what it is that you're doing, and you need to know what alternatives there are.
Hmm.
I think most people probably fairly good at knowing what they do and how they do it, not always why they do it.
Hmm.
And I guess part of our role as a vendor is to let people know what it is what are the alternatives, what's out there that could potentially improve what you do.
Hmm.
In industrial printing, we're a little bit one step removed from the final product. What we do very often is part of a longer process. It's not the final product. Commercial print, what you print is your final product almost.
Hmm.
But we're often producing something that's a decor or a functional layer to a much more complicated product.
Hmm.
So a very small part in a much bigger process. So we're normally below people's radar, but I think people are
Hmm.
now actually setting up and saying, well, hang on, let's look at what it is we do and how we do it, and what are the alternatives. And quite often, some of them are saying we need to look at it before our competition does. We can't be left behind by them. If they're looking at what else is out there, we should be doing it anyway, whether the competition is doing it or not.
Hmm.
But every company owes a duty to continuous improvement, and I think that comes out as to how we now connect the vendors with the customers. I think that's one of the big changes that may come out of this, and because of its timing. If it happened 2 years ago or 2 years forward, it might be a different story. But specifically things like Drupal, the usual marketplace for customers and vendors to meet, and it's been, if we take Drupal and IPEX and Vespa and all of the other trade shows, they were about print. And a lot of the industrial customers coming to that show, print isn't their business. It's a small part of their business. But it's a very good marketplace for seeing everybody and everything. In the background, not in the background, but running parallel to this, you've also got exhibitions which are stratified in a different way. You've got
Hmm.
those that are related to an industry or an application. So you have the motor show, you have the flooring show, you have the soft furnishings exhibition, so Heimtex, Domotex. You have shows for building industry, so you have BAU. And in there, what you've got is a company who is looking for all sorts of things. They may be looking for a printing process. They may be looking for a material handling process. They may be looking for robots. So the question is there perhaps a change in the format of exhibitions going forward, that the
Hmm.
strength is moving towards the buyer?
Hmm.
At the moment, we say all the sellers in the print industry go to one place at one time, and all the customers have to come to us and go to other exhibitions as well. It may well be that the format changes, the power moves towards the buyer, where you have an exhibition that is peculiar to an industry, let's say automotive, and a customer will go there and he will be looking at all of the different aspects involved in his production process. So one exhibition, you'll see robots, you'll see printing, you'll see tire manufacturing, the whole raft of products and processes that relate to his industry. It means that exhibitors may end up going to more shows, but with a smaller footprint. So rather than having the one big show and one mega booth, you go to a lot of different shows and you alter your offering for each show. So I can imagine going to an automotive exhibition, we would show our additive manufacturing, we would show industrial printing, we would show our robotics, we would show certain kinds of software. The following week, it may be an exhibition on food. And there we'd be showing food grade inks and printing. So you're changing your offering according to what the subject matter of the exhibition is. It's just at the moment we seem to have got a bit of a jumble. We've got vertically aligned technologies and horizontally aligned applications. And there's exhibitions that are trying to cater to both axes at the same time. And perhaps we've had enough of that. We now need to do some focus on the application rather than the technology.
Yeah, and I guess based upon what you're saying, big events like Drupa were almost defined innovation cycles, didn't they? So that kind of almost was like we all launch at this point.
Yes, that was a luxury.
The rules of engagement have changed a bit, haven't they? They were changing probably anyway, but it's compounded.
We're changing
maybe
a lot quicker. We're changing. Innovation and change is much shorter cycle time now. And the prospect of saying, well, we missed Drupa by a month, we're going to wait another 3-4 years before we launch our product. That's not going to happen. You now launch as soon as your product's ready. And if it coincides with an exhibition, well, happy days. But if it doesn't, you launch it virtually or any other way you can. So I think the day of the big launch may have had its time. And we've seen it with Drupa date being shifted initially. A lot of companies said, well, our product's ready, we're going to launch now. And have done a virtual launch. And other companies have launched since Drupa. So you might infer from that they wouldn't have been ready in time for Drupa. And for them, the date change was a blessing. But with a number of major players now saying they're not attending Drupa, you've got to look at the value of that to the customer base now. If all the major players aren't there, is it really a good comparison for what you want to do? You've either got to do a lot more desk research before you go to make sure that you're going to see what you see. Otherwise, you're going to get a skewed presentation. If you see some of the manufacturers there and not others, you're not really getting a big picture of what the market has to offer you. So, and there is this domino effect. Once take the big press manufacturers, once one or two of those have said they're not attending, why would you spend as much time at the show looking at the one or two who are going to be there and then still have to travel around the world visiting the other ones? Because you're not going to make those kind of investments without doing due diligence of all of your options. So as soon as the first person breaks ranks, it becomes a problem. And there are people who have broken rank now.
Yeah, and like you said, that's changed. It's not necessarily because the show wasn't right since 1951. It's been the event, hasn't it? And will continue to be, I'm sure, in the future, a very important event. But just the compounded nature of change in a short space of time is leading to that kind of effect that I think, in essence, people are going, actually, I'm not sure if the capital investment will be the same. I'm not sure it's the right thing for me to do to be at that event.
Yeah, I think as well, if you talk about the 50s, then the means of communication were far more limited. If the only options you had were face-to-face, letter, or by phone. And nobody ever bought a big piece of capital equipment by letter or by phone. So face-to-face was the only way of doing it and getting the information out there. The growth of marketing medium, including the internet, I'm not putting it all down on the internet, but has meant that information accessibility means people can now view equipment in a far more virtual world than previously have, and still get an experience. We've recently been running some exhibitions, demonstrations rather, of large pieces of capital equipment over Teams. And the effect of that has been that we've had customers from all around the world. They're having a one-on-one dem, which they would never get at an exhibition. often in their own language,
Mm.
but which isn't always guaranteed at an exhibition. We can stop and start the machine on their command and with their files, which you certainly would never do on an exhibition. And then we can have people from many continents at the same time on the call when we start to talk about the cost of ownership and the technical issues. We can dial in additional people as necessary. And it's actually, you've got to question it, is in some ways it's been better than doing a demonstration of technology at an exhibition such as Drupa. Certainly far more cost effective from that point of view. And at the moment, although results are still coming through, it's looking like it's going to be as successful.
Yeah, because the need's
Which
still
is,
there. The format's just changed, right? I mean, the
yeah,
need's still there. I would imagine you know these people fairly well already, and I guess you could always argue at an event like Drupa with such an abundance of people attending, you are more likely to perhaps get the shoppers, the people that are perhaps not quite as close to buying. So
yeah, but
there's
only if they're interested in print. If we
mm,
turn it around the other way, is if we go to the automotive show, for instance, let's turn it round, and pitch up our tent there and say, this is what we do in the industrial world, we're going to get people who would never have ever thought about industrial printing as being part of their production process, who are going to say, hang on, that chimes, that resonates with something we're doing. Let's talk to these people. And I think that's what we're now seeing is through non product specific interface, we're starting to get contact now. Certainly out of some of the virtual summits that you've done and that other people have done, we're now getting people who are getting in touch saying, I don't know if I'm going to waste your time or not, but we do this. Now, I would never have found these people. They're manufacturing a product that I guess somebody had somewhere had to make it because I see it in everyday life. But I wouldn't have known where to go out and reach them to do that. Who popped up and said, "This is the product that we do. Can you do anything for us? Can you add any value for us?" And we'll look at the value added and we'll look at the cost and we'll make a qualified decision on it. And it's been great for basically, I suppose, speed dating people who would never have met otherwise. Now, there is no substitute. The final order will still be met face to face, eye to eye, and with a shake of hands and a flurry of pens. It always will be. There is always that need at the far end of it. And there will still be face to face live demonstrations for that final acceptance trial. But these first contacts, I think the present crisis has changed the way that we make those first contacts now.
Yeah.
Customers, potential customers who came to Drupa were already interested in print. It's now, how do we reach those people who don't know that they need print yet?
Yeah, and that could be through events or other means, virtual means even.
Yeah.
Brilliant. And just sort of wrapping up, really, I guess that the world of retail, I like the tsunami analogy. So we've had a big change, and then some of it will go back to normal, but some may not. Obviously, events are suffering, or particularly large trade shows are very, very under pressure. So we could see a sort of short-term change that may remain long-term as well.
Yeah. I mean, everybody said it was not feasible that IPEX would disappear. I'm now working with younger colleagues and I have to explain to them what IPEX was.
Yeah.
It's, history soon covers it up and flows back to fill the gaps with other things.
Yeah.
And we see that the exhibitors who've already pulled out of Drupa, for instance, they haven't said, we've pulled out of Drupa because we can't afford it and we need to save the money. What they've said is, we're going to channel those resources to smaller, local, more personalized events and one-on-one connections to customers. That's actually a positive change. It's not just a knee-jerk reaction, we need to save money, we're not doing it. They've actually picked an alternative path.
Yeah.
And it's quite a brave thing to do. But it is the emperor's new clothes. The first person to say, actually, is this format broken? Is it time to change?
Move on. Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks for that. That's superb. Bit of insight there and thoughts and so on. And yeah, we'll catch up again, I'm sure, perhaps at the next virtual summit. So thanks so much for your time, Dave.
That's a pleasure, Marcus.
Thanks.
Always a pleasure. Take care. Bye-bye.